back here with the MMA Island. Today I'm in Wakefield, Massachusetts at Defensive Edge Martial Arts Academy, the home of the FI Fight Team. Today I'm with Zach Danesh, who's flying for New England Fights next week. Zach, how are you feeling?
I feel good, man. Yeah, absolutely.
The weight cut's going good, training good?
Don't really have to weight cut because we're going, up. So mostly it's just been, upping my cardio, getting rounds in, being pretty specific and purposeful with what I'm trying to do.
So what's your background in martial arts? How did you get into martial arts?
Oh man, that's a long story. So I started as a little kid, probably as all of us did. I did, Billy Blanks, who did Taibo. You're probably too young to remember Taibo. But before Taibo, there was Billy Blanks Karate, and I was a tiger. I was a yellow belt, fierce killer. And then I took some time off, and I just sort of did Wing Chun later. I moved to Massachusetts, I did Wing Chun. And then, when I moved to Florida, I boxed a little bit. I was terrible at it, and I did jiu-jitsu for the first time, and I hated it.
So how'd you go from hating jiu-jitsu to becoming a black belt in it?
Oh man, I think it's probably my OCD. So I think so. At first, when I was moving from Florida to New York, because I'm an artist, I make weird art. I wanted to be super cool and trendy in New York, and I was going to go to Zaragoza Boxing because I was a pugilist, but I wasn't. And the gym had closed down. There wasn't enough money. This was 2008, 2009, to the crash. And I was looking for spots to train at because I'd always been into like just movement, yoga, gymnastics, all sorts of shit. And I found Williamsburg Mixed Martial Arts, and I wrote the guy an email. I knew nothing of the sport. I remember watching Mirko on TV, Mirko Krokop, and being like, wow, he's amazing. I didn't really know anything about it. So then I contacted him, Roger Mamedov, who was an Almeida brown belt at the time, and he fought a couple of UFC prelims, and he was a tough guy. And I asked him about what is his philosophy in martial art? And he didn't know what the heck I was talking about, really. But he had me come in, and I just sort of, my whole time in New York, just trained. I only competed a couple times. I hated competing, but I loved it as I went into it. But I didn't like it to begin with. Jiu-jitsu, I should say.
A lot of people imagine martial arts as these bloodthirsty killers.
Yeah.
You're a very smart guy. You're very technical. So what would you say to those people who imagine all martial arts as just these killers?
Maybe a lot of it's, performance and persona. I mean, for me, I got into it in more a competitive way, like later. Mm-hmm. I guess by default, this is who I am. Someone like maybe Colby Covington, he says he put on a character, right?
Yep.
Good for him, it's super cool. I don't really make money at it competing, so I just sort of want to be as authentic as I can be. So I'm just me. Yeah.
So how did you find Defensive Edge?
So when I was interested in, I'd always in the back of my head, ever since I seen GSP or any of these guys, the Budweiser Cowboy. I didn't know Cerrone. I said, Budweiser Cowboy. I wanted to, in the back of my head, do it, but I never really had that kind of competitive background. And at 29, 30, I started competing again as a purple belt in gi jiu-jitsu, and I did pretty well. And then as the shutdowns happened, everything happened, I found Brazilian Top Team, which was awesome. And, Luis Torres, BTT black belt, opened up a school. Me and my friend Angelo, who's a Pan-American now, amazing grappler. We just started training really hard there, and Connor Berry was the guy to help us because he and Lewis went way back. So it's all these weird connections you find in martial art. This who knows who, like everyone knows each other,
So your record's right now 1-1. You've lost your first fight, you won your second fight.
Yep.
What do you think the biggest difference was between those two in your preparation?
Well, I think that Tristan's a really good fighter in the first one, and he had striking background, like he had actually competed in striking. Mm-hmm. So he had more of a sensitivity to that, where, I'd never done that competitively like that. So that was the first time I had ever really kicked someone as hard as I wanted or tried to punch someone as hard as I wanted. So it was a real shocker to be like, wow, this is next level when you're going at it like that. So I think in the second one, I was far more aware. It was an education, you know, so I can't, I don't, the older I get, there's just no regrets. There's no time for it, you know, so I feel like, you know, it's my journey. It's an exciting life. I'm blessed. I'm healthy enough to do it. Most people will never know what it is. I'm lucky that before I got too old, I got to do it. You know, like I'm just lucky to be around.
How old are you?
37. So I'm old.
Hey, what's his name? Glover Teixeira was like 42 when he
42.
retired. Yeah.
But I'll say this, Don Fry, thus I have the Don Fry mustache.
Yep.
He had got signed to the UFC at 36, and he was 2-6 in boxing. So he wasn't great, maybe, you know, great. Matchups, who knows, right? But, you know, he 2-6. So, and of course then later being, you know, inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. So I feel like, you know, I don't have any big goals other than just what's in front of me day in, day out. The world's a crazy place now. Mm-hmm. You know my cartoons, you know what I talk about. So I see craziness and I think, wow, like as a little kid, I kind of always felt like I was meant to be who I am. You know, I grew up in California, kind of surfing culture, art, martial art. I was a valley boy. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like even though I went to the other coast, I'm like, I'm basically in my body. I'm kind of what I was supposed to be. But I have to walk the walk, so I have to continue to do this as long as I can do it. And then, yeah.
So every event, every promotion has a different vibe. Combat FC, it's a very like show type thing. They got all those like bright lights going around. It's like my first experience at that venue was a circus, so every time I'm getting like, all right, time for the circus. I haven't been to the venue in Bangor. How's that vibe there?
It was interesting, man, because, you know, I've only had the 2 experiences. So the first one, of course, bright lights and everything, and it's pretty wild. It's a big stadium. Mm-hmm. And, but the second one was, you know, well lit. You can see all the faces, and I don't know, they're both surreal, man. It's a very strange thing to get in there. Again, most people are not going to do it, you know. It's a weird thing that if one only knows, I think, through experiencing it. It's wild, you know, wild stuff.
So the Aura, where this fight is, it's a much different from those two. It's a like concert stage with Coliseum seating. There's no space for a walker. You just like walk around the cage through the backstage, basically. So what do you feel about that? Very like intimate atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, when the gate closes, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There's not a lot of time for emotionality. It goes so fast, man. You're in it, you know. From my limited experience, it's like grappling or whatever, you're in it. And then before you know it, it's done, and that's it. So it's a lot of training for a very small amount of action. You know.
So NEF just released a card today, and you're the first fight. Are you glad that you're able to get in there early, not let your nerves like sit there for too long? Or would you rather fight a little bit later?
I don't know. I think that no matter what, Connor prepares me well. So, you know, he does my breathing, he does all my stuff. They call me. It's the same thing one way or the other. It's fine because he'll prepare me. Yeah.
And you got 2 other teammates fighting on this card. You got Anthony Vasa, who's somewhere over there, and then Artemanov.
Yeah.
How does it feel to fight with the team, having the entire team come up to Maine?
It's really cool. It makes it feel less. It's always daunting, but a little less because you do have familiar faces, and yeah, I mean it's a lot. I mean it's intense to get out there, man.
So your opponent recently said that he doesn't know anything about you. So what's something that you believe that he should know about you going into this fight?
I mean, I think he knows. I'm focused on grappling. I've worked with you guys pretty hard on being able to be competent with my striking. We all know he knows I want to go to the ground. He'll most likely try to prevent that. Maybe he'll try to take me down. Yeah, I mean, I think you have a game plan, right? And then you get in there and, you know, you can't be married to anything. It's the most ultimate practice of Zen. You can't live with a mistake you just made, and you can't think too far ahead of what you think is going to happen. You got to be very moment by moment until it's all done.
So while he says he doesn't know anything about you, What do you know about him? He's an 0-0 guy. I think he's like a baseball player or something.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a disciplined athlete. I don't think he has the amount of experience I have in grappling, but it does change when there's punching and kicking. It changes a lot. He is bigger than me, and you can't rule out someone's physicality. I mean, physicality is a big part of it. As much as it's mental and tactical and technique, you gotta be physical.
So what should the fans expect from this fight?
Well, obviously, I'm hoping my hand gets raised. I'm hoping it's a repeat of, my opponent before, a great guy. I hope that I can do the same thing. Go for a takedown, go for one of my submissions, and end it. Yeah.
And win, lose, or draw, what do you want to come out of this fight?
I think, man, it's for me. I had a bunch of friends that I had done my journey with early on in Brooklyn. The Perea brothers, Diego Lopez, who's a comedian actually. Roger, my professor who fought UFC. So I feel like I just want to, for myself, have those experiences. I've lost plenty already. Like, I know what that is. I know I can get past it. I know wins feel good, but it's an exploration, man. I guess, as much as I'm an artist, that's sort of my performance art in a way, and I am a guy who's very interested in martial arts and movement. And yeah, I just want to, as long as I'm happy, healthy, able, I want to get some of these experiences in.
So what do you do outside the cage? You've obviously mentioned your art.
Yeah, so I've done animated cartoons before. I got into some festivals for that. That was pretty cool. I want to be the next Mike Judge for Beavis and Butthead, or Parker and Stone did South Park. I want to be that guy. My animations only went so far. I thought they were pretty cool, but it's very, very competitive. Not unlike this. And I can't be anybody else but me. So I'm trying to be as authentically me as possible. And all the guys that I really look up to, it's beyond liking an opinion or disliking an opinion. I admire people who are so authentically them. Even if I disagree with them, even if I don't like a style that they have or whatever, I just think it's so cool when they get to express what they are. I think that's such a powerful ability in itself.
So your art always has a message in like the state of the world. It's also a very particular art style. Where does that style come from?
So yeah, it came from growing up watching weird cartoons on MTV. And I was my dad exposed me early on to early Picasso. And Picasso, every artist is sort of auteur past the modern, in the modern artist realm. They were always, even Francisco Goya, he was a Spanish artist and he did work for the monarchy, but then he did side work that was like crapping on the monarchy. So he was kind of auteur and created cool stuff that was of his own imagination. So even Daumier later, who was a French mannerist, who also criticized the monarchy, and I think he actually served some time for it. So I was always into these artists who, suffered in real ways for their art and really expressed themselves and had the courage to do so. So when we were coming up, especially in the 90s, you saw so many artists that were just generating such wild imagery, and it wasn't PC culture, it wasn't woke culture, so you really had a lot of just fun, freedom. Freedom is paramount.
So what would you say some of your short-term and long-term goals are within your martial arts career or your art career or anything in your life? Let's say short-term, under a year and a half, long-term, over a year and a half.
Wow, man. So right now, I co-own Brazilian Top Team Lin with my professor, Lewis. I hope to build that program. I hope to get kids from Lin interested. I hope to, that's the biggest thing right now, build that, of course, compete hopefully well. I hope to continue to make really cool art. We're having an art show with a bunch of the, black belts and martial arts people in our community. So that should be fun. Connor's been making awesome art too. So yeah, man, I think that everything's up in the air. The world's so wild. it's really, honestly, it's pretty much one day at a time. It's just doing what I want to do, which is martial art, and anyone who's going to be in my circle kind of has to be a part of that. Otherwise, they're awesome, God bless, but I don't have time. You know, I have limited time, right? We all really do have limited time. I have less time than you, so I really have to make sure that, you know, I'm a little bit, I have my priorities. I have to learn to say no. I have to, you know, take my beatings. In the art realm, in the arena, the man in the arena, the famous quote, I have to, you know, I'm that man in the arena now, so in more than one way. So I have to take the beatings.
So you mentioned that you co-own PT Linton. Are you teaching out of there?
Yes, sir. Yep. So yeah, teaching, mostly no-gi, and Professor Lewis does both, the gi and no-gi. And we have some talented young people that are coming up, you know, that are just so inspiring to me, and at least I know that they're, even when I'm done with putting my butt on the line, that I'm able to share these experiences and talk to people who are going to go through it and be that next generation of a very, very small percent of people.
So a lot of people who fight and teach at the same time, they find trouble finding the balance between being the instructor, being the student. Because as an instructor, you have to be very selfless, everything to your students. As a fighter, you have to be very selfish, take everything from your instructors. How do you find that balance?
Well, that's why I'm lucky I work with Professor Lewis, because he's able to be more selfless than I am, and I'm allowed to be a little more selfish. So we have a really great dynamic where he's just such an amazing big brother to me, and obviously paired us up with Connor, and I'm very, very lucky, man. So that's kind of why, as much as it's, you know, it's always intimidating, it's always nerve-wracking, it's all those things. If someone tells you that it's not, I mean, I don't know, it's my projection, but they must be lying, right? I mean, I imagine. So, yeah, I have enough people around me that just want to see me grow. And I've removed people who wanted to stifle me. I've removed people that wanted to limit my speech. I've removed people that, you know, want to tell nonsense about me. And I've only now allowed people in that don't have to agree with everything I say, of course, but just know where my heart's at and know that I want to contribute to this awesome endeavor, and be a support to them on their journey, be helpful, you know. To err is human. I always go back to that philosophy, to err is human. You know, people want to seem like, oh, you know, I'm perfect, or, you know, whatever. We're not meant to be, and I don't need to be. I just want to be authentic. Authentic is the goal, not perfect, but authentic.
So we're gonna hit a couple of your favorites. If you want to give a story behind the favorite, you can. If you just want to hit it and move on, you can hit it and move on, okay? Your favorite fight on this card besides your own?
Oh, man.
A lot of really good fights on this card.
Well, I guess I gotta say, you know, Vasta and Artur. You know, Artur's you know, both those guys are amazing. Artur's been working with me a lot with some of the wall work stuff and the striking as well. Artur's an incredible martial artist, great energy, one of the safest guys I've ever trained with, but one of the biggest killers I've ever trained with. He's amazing, man. He will not hurt you. I mean, he is like unbelievable at pulling his punches and controlling all of it. It's wildly impressive. Yeah.
Your favorite big league fighter? Big league like UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL?
Oh, man. There's so many, man. There's so many. You know, I think sometimes, you know, I'm more into, like, you know, so let's say Dean Lister, back in the day, you know, he's just so humble, and he's so gracious in wins and losses both, and he's got a big heart, and he's super smart. I really like his mindset. I identify with that. Someone like now, like Izzy, you know, I just love how interesting he is, and how unapologetic, and his style, his opinion, that he's, again, authentically him. You can tell he's authentically him. You know, Don Fry, of course, you know, for someone like me, is just really an inspiration, because, you know, he was 2-6 in boxing. You know, he went around for this love of this game with absolute courage, and never accepted, you know, defeat. You know, had one of the manliest fights of all time with Takayama.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you know, that guy's just incredible. there's so many, man. There's so many. And some of these guys, like Jorge Masvidal, I grew up watching him, and we're the same age, basically. I think he's 2 years older than me, a year older than me. We're about the same age.
So, yeah.
And I could have never dreamed doing what that guy did. And he's been in the game forever. I've been a practitioner for a long time, but I wasn't in the game like him. So that guy, to me, is just wildly impressive. And plus, he's so anti-socialist and so freedom-loving. So I also love Masvidal for that, and I would love to maybe meet him, at one point, because I just think I get where his head's at,
Your favorite regional fighter besides yourself or any of your teammates?
Oh man, you stumped me. I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure.
You watch a lot of regional fights at all?
I don't so much. And most of the guys I'm going to see fighting, I know them all, so I can't really say. Yeah.
If you want to give someone that you know, then.
Conor Berry, he's the man. He's the ultimate man. He's incredible. So yeah, watched a lot of his footage. I didn't get to see it live, but really what he does is unbelievable. I mean, he's just incredible. I get to roll jiu-jitsu with him, and it's like, I just take those lessons, man. I take them, like he's 10 years younger, 10 years younger than me, and I'm just glad he's coaching me. It's a funny dynamic, but it is, it is what it is.
Your favorite fight to watch, like on TV or something? I know you've mentioned a lot already.
Man, yeah. Mirko Cro Cop is always a guy that I like going back. Oh, yeah, Mirko Cro Cop I like going back because I was really young and remember seeing him up on I don't know if it was ESPN, I don't know what it was on, but I watched him fight. And I don't know the guys he fought. I had to go back and now look at Josh Barnett, I believe. I saw that one again, so. But Mirko, I always fancied myself as a karate guy. I always fancied myself as a kicker. So I just loved what he did. Yeah, he was sort of an iconic for me. Yeah.
So how many times have you said you would competed in total by now? Like jiu-jitsu tournaments plus your 2 MMA fights and stuff?
I have no idea.
Could you give me a favorite out of all of your competitions?
I think for me, it's kind of two. So my first Worlds in purple belt gi, I got choked out. I'd done well as a purple belt up until that, where it was catastrophic. So it was one of my favorites because I had to come back from it, and it taught me so much about humility and finding my center and having faith and pressing forward. And even my mom was so funny. I remember vaguely that she was kind of insisting, she hated it. She cried. She was so upset. But I think she was kind of so when are you going back out? Not pressuring me, but just kind of giving me a little bit of, I know this is what you want to do. So I guess you're going to have to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then of course, with Brazilian top team going to Worlds, the second time I was able to place, I lost the silver medal on decision, which I didn't agree with the decision, but it still was so great to be on a podium for that, and it really sort of made me feel like, okay, I can hang, because it's always a confidence issue. I mean, I won Naga belts before, I'd won some gold medals before, I'd done it, but it was something kind of cool about that, and just going, okay, the more you do it, you're gonna get your hand raised, you're gonna not have your hand raised, but if you love it, you gotta, I always say love is greater than fear. Mm-hmm. Love is a higher frequency and fear is a low frequency. So if you really truly love the thing, it can kind of dim that fear. It can do that.
All right, anything else you'd like to say to the fans, of the promotion, to your opponent?
We're gonna get after it, on the 13th, so we're going for it.
All right, thank you for your time. Good luck.
Thanks.